Like,
Maybe even if she sucked her thumb, I know we're live. Even if she sucked her thumb, why would your engagement ring be on your thumb?
right. But like if I woke up and I'm missing my engagement ring, like the last solution I land on is that I swallowed it.
Welcome to the Deeper Dive. Dave Loughran, Adam Scher, Alex Baker, Awesomeo himself. We'll be doing Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays going forward to close out the last half month of the season. So Adam and I are with you today, just the two of us, like old times. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Football didn't go as well for me yesterday as it did week one, so a little disappointed in that. But back to baseball, back to Showdown football. How was your weekend?
Did it go well for anyone that you know?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It was, yeah. I mean, I had a ton of Ben Roethlisberger, so what are you going to do? Would have been cool if I knew about that injury that he was dealing with for a week now. But
yeah, Juju was hurt too.
What's up?
I saw Juju was playing injured also, so I'm sure that didn't help your Roethlisberger lineups.
Oh, certainly not. No, it was actually pretty horrible. But we move on. Talking baseball today. We'll just get right into it, kick it off. By the way, just a little programming note here. The MLB slate does not start, or the first game tonight does not start until 7:40. That's Minnesota and the Cubs. So that's the first game on the slate, which means that it's kind of perfect scheduling for us to hand the baton to the fellas for Live Before Lock. And that's Josh Engelman and Jake Hari. And then they're going to pass it off to Nolan Kelly and Emac, our boy Eric McPherson, for the NFL Live Before Lock for tonight's Monday night showdown slate between the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. By the way, how about Sam Darnold being out until week 5 with mononucleosis?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that they announced week 5, but yeah, that's a pretty crazy story.
I saw it today. I swear I saw week 5. Pretty sure it is.
Seems right.
But maybe I dreamt it. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's actually what's happening. But anyway,
dreaming about Sam Darnold kissing people.
Yeah. Minnesota, Chicago White Sox, Jose Berrios, Ronaldo Lopez. It's pretty amazing that Ronaldo Lopez went from 9,800 to 6,800 in one start on DraftKings.
Yeah, they got him back to where he should be, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Facing Minnesota, Berrios in a pretty tasty matchup against the White Sox. Let's start with him. He's not cheap. He's not egregiously expensive either. But he's also a better real-life pitcher than a fantasy pitcher. So what are you doing with Berrios?
Yeah, I think it's pretty site-dependent. He's 10,200 on DraftKings, which he's clearly priced for the matchup. He's only struck out about 22.5% of hitters this year. And so that salary isn't really supported by his strikeout numbers, but it is a good matchup against the White Sox. On FanDuel, though, he's only 8,500. On Yahoo, he's $40. So more in line with his talent level there, and kind of ignoring the fact that he's facing a White Sox lineup that has tons of strikeouts in it. The only hitters in this lineup that have been above average against right-handed pitching are Moncada, Abreu, and Jimenez. Everyone else is pretty bad. Plenty of strikeouts, really top to bottom. So I think that on FanDuel and Yahoo, Berrios grades out as like the top play, and then on DraftKings, it's tougher to get there.
Yeah, it is. I don't think it's crazy to get there on DraftKings, but I don't know if it's like a priority play or even a particularly good one. Looking at some of the top pitchers on the slate, of course, you have Strasburg against St. Louis, then Berrios, then Robby Ray against the Marlins, Tanner Roark at 9,300. Those are your guys above 9K. I don't want to go all over the place, but I do want to ask you, as we usually start the show off, anything stand out to you at pitching where you just see it and you know that it's the right spots tonight?
Not really. Berrios on FanDuel and Yahoo, but right. I think that pitching's pretty clear cut as far as being straightforward, but it's not with guys where I'm super confident they do well. I just feel pretty strongly that they're the best options on this particular slate.
What are you thinking about this matchup against Ronaldo Lopez for Minnesota?
I don't want to take pitchers against Minnesota. I think that it's a pretty good spot for the Twins.
No, I said, what do you think for Minnesota?
Yeah, 5.9 implied run total for Minnesota. Lopez has decent strikeout stuff, especially against right-handed hitters, but hasn't really struck out lefties this year. You have six of them in this lineup for Minnesota. Arias, Polanco, Rosario, Cave, all in the top 6. Cave gives you some salary relief. Rosario is really cheap. I think he's one of the better values on the slate. And then obviously the righties there with Cruz and Garver have tons of power too. So I do like Minnesota.
Okay. As far as top stacks go, would this be a team that's towards the top for you?
Yeah, I think outside of Coors Field, it's like Oakland, Minnesota as my top teams probably.
Okay. And I got to ask, do you have any interest in White Sox bats?
No, not really. Eloy Jimenez is cheap enough where he's a decent upside play in tournaments, but Berrios is just a pretty decent pitcher. There's plenty of options to go to, and the hitters on the White Sox that I would be interested in are first base, third base, and outfield. So it's not like it's difficult to find really good options at those positions.
Okay. Yeah. And looking at our top stack tool at awesemo.com, get 50% off your first month by going to awesemo.com/join and using the sign up code Deeper Dive. All one word will get you 50% off your first month. It's a pretty sweet deal. You should check it out. The top stack tool, ownership, player projections, not just for baseball, but for football. When NBA rolls around, NHL, all of our sports, PGA, no top stacks there, but you get the point. And we're developing new tools every day. All of them developed and used daily by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, which is what we named the site after. Well, it is his site. And the lineup cruncher, lineup builder, really cool feature for anyone not MMing. If you are MMing, we have the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. So we have a ton over there at awesemo.com. Use the sign-up code Deeper Dive when you check it out. awesemo.com/join. You can see what all the plans are. We've got videos for them, so you're not going you're not jumping in head first without knowing what you're getting. But on the top stack tool, you've got Minnesota right now coming in as the 4th highest owned team. Of course, Adam, as we would all expect to be the case, both teams from Coors are the highest owned. So I guess Minnesota does make some sense as a I don't want to say contrarian, but I'm sorry, 4th highest top stack probability. And then ownership tops, they are at, 8th highest on the slate. So not that popular.
Yeah, I think it's a good tournament spot for them.
All right. What are your thoughts on this next one? Milwaukee and San Diego. You've got on the mound today, Garrett Richards. He's honestly always had plenty of abilities. Is there ever a time where he's not hurt? Because he has good stuff.
Yeah, I think he's thrown like 138 innings in the last 4 seasons or something.
I mean, I was very excited. He was with the Angels last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really excited about him last season, and thinking if he's healthy, this will be a good year. But he can't stay healthy. But here he is making his debut of 2019. This time with the San Diego Padres. He's coming off Tommy John surgery, and he's only reached 4 innings in any of his rehab appearances. So my guess is that we see some pretty strict limitations on his pitch count. On the other side, Zack Davies, pretty solid matchup against San Diego. He's like king run prevention and king bad or terrible at serious question. Is there a pitcher that's better at limiting runs and worse at getting strikeouts right now in the league as a starter than Zack Davies?
Well, I don't even want to say he's good at limiting runs. Like he has been this year, but like if you go by ERA, but he has a 5.5 SIERA.
Right. I'm saying that's why I didn't want to use the word good. Just in terms of not allowing a ton of runs, but striking nobody out.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to have one of the biggest gaps between like his expected run prevention and his actual. And yeah, he doesn't strike anyone out. So
right.
Not the most appealing DFS guy.
What are your thoughts on the pitching matchup?
I'm really interested to see how Richards looks, but I'm not looking to roster him in DFS for the reasons that you said. Just unlikely that he goes particularly deep into this game. Through the most pitches he threw in a rehab start was 57, and that was at the end of July. He has good stuff. He's always been a guy that I think is like will be really good, but then he gets hurt and never lives up to that. So I don't want to roster him, but I am interested to see how he looks. On the other side, I think Davies, particularly on DraftKings, is viable as an SP2. He's not my favorite, but it's Zack Davies. He strikes out 15% of hitters. But the Padres do have a really weak lineup. Really, the only good hitters in this lineup are Machado, Hosmer, and then I guess if you want to include Myers or Naylor. But it's a really watered down lineup. Not a ton of strikeouts. He doesn't strike guys out strike guys out anyway. But I think he's viable on DraftKings. I think he's less necessary on Yahoo because you have guys like Cole Hamels and Tanner Roark at the same price point.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like if there was a spot where Davies would have a decent game, this is probably it. But if I had to guess, he probably has like 1 or 2 starts this season with more than 4 strikeouts. Like that's how brutal it's been. Game coming at Miller Park, though. We know it's good for the long ball. It's good for runs. What are your thoughts on the bats here? We can start with Milwaukee. Grisham leading off. Grandal, Moustakas, Braun, Eric Thames, Spangenberg batting 7th. Kane 6th. Any interest here?
I think they're a decent stack. I don't like them as much as I like Minnesota or Oakland or obviously Coors, but they are reasonably priced, and we really just have no idea what we're going to get from Garrett Richards. He could be really good, or he could go out there and be awful. We really don't know. So with a range of outcomes that wide, I think that they're appealing because Grandal's a $4,500 catcher option. Moustakas is less than the whole team's less than 5K. 4K for Grisham leading off. So I think that they're appealing as a stack more so than one-offs.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. As one-offs, I'm not really that interested, but I have some interest in this team. I mean, it'd be nice if Yelich was there, but one of the big things, if you wanted to pay up for both pitchers, this would be one of those teams that's pretty easy to get into your lineup as a stack.
Yeah, and the reason that I say I prefer them as a stack to one-offs is that if Richards is on his game, none of these guys are in a great spot. Right. If he's just bad, then obviously you would want all of them. So I think that it just kind of skews towards like a boom or bust spot for the entire team.
I hear you. Any interest in San Diego against Zack Davies?
Not a lot. I think Machado is a really good value. I think Hosmer's a good first base option, but you do have Pete Alonso at first base in Coors. You also have Daniel Murphy in Coors. So pretty stacked position.
Okay. St. Louis and Washington, Steven Strasburg is your most expensive pitcher on DraftKings at $11,800, as well as on FanDuel at $10,400, and as well as on Yahoo at $5,200. Pretty big gap there between him and Robby Ray, who's $4,500 and the second highest priced pitcher. Berrios, you mentioned $40 on Yahoo is really appealing given that discount. What are you doing with Strasburg today?
I think he's just more of a luxury than a necessity on this slate. He has the second highest strikeout percentage. He has the best SIERA by far. He's the only pitcher on the slate with a SIERA below 4. But there's a game in Coors. There's, plenty of bats that you want to pay for, whether it be the Coors game, Minnesota, Oakland, et cetera. So I think that if you can get him in the lineups, then great. It's Steven Strasburg, but it's not the best strikeout matchup. Excluding Dakota Hudson, the Cardinals, the average strikeout percentage for the Cardinals lineup against right-handed pitching is about 20.1%. So that's below average. There's only a couple guys in there that strike out a lot. One of them's Bader, who's hitting 8th, so gets fewer plate appearances as well. I think that Strasburg's a good play. It's just more so in lineups where you have all the hitters you want, and then just still have the money left over.
Right. Yeah. Dakota Hudson on the other side against Washington, been good this season. I mean, I'm not really impressed with the guy on the whole, but he's better than I thought he would be, and he's calmed down a little bit against lefties. Anything to say about Hudson here against Washington?
Just a really tough spot for him. Still not a high strikeout guy. He's only struck out 18.8% of righties, 17% of lefties. And you're getting this Nats lineup where Turner, Eaton, Rendon, Soto, are all low strikeout guys. Cabrera is not a high K guy either. And just a lot of good hitters. By Nationals standards, this lineup's a little weaker than normal, but it's still a good lineup. And Hudson's not exactly cheap either. Okay.
What about bats against Hudson?
Not my favorite spot, just because, I think he is a decent pitcher. I think that $4,700 Juan Soto stands out in particular. I think that it looks like we're projecting them to be owned pretty much where they should be. And so when you have teams like Oakland and Minnesota that are being under-owned, I think that I would prefer to get to those teams.
Okay. Do you have anything from this game else that you want to talk about?
Nothing really stands out here.
Okay. Cincinnati and Chicago Cubs. Then let's move to this game. No wind here. It is 68 degrees. And another thing to point out when we get to Coors, I'll mention it now because I'll forget. It's 68 degrees at Wrigley. It's, what is it? 68 degrees. I guess that doesn't count because the roof might be up. It's 68 degrees at Miller Park. It's not really like overwhelmingly hot anywhere. Of course, in Oakland, 66 degrees. it's warm in St. Louis and Minnesota, but 87 degrees at first pitch at Coors Field, which, this time of year only makes you more enticed by what they've got going on there with two bad pitchers. But first, let's talk about the Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds. Cole Hamels, your favorite, Kevin Gausman. Does this game? Well, I guess we can look at the totals first. Right now, you have I lost it. Here you go. So for Cincinnati, they got a 3.9 run total, 5.2 for the Chicago Cubs. And right now we have 7 teams with implied totals above 5 and 5 teams with implied totals below 4. So it's pretty much no gray area on this slate.
Yeah, I actually really like Hamels. I didn't write about him in the article today because I hadn't seen the Reds lineup yet, but Joey Votto scratched, so that takes one low strikeout guy out. Michael Lorenzen's in the lineup, which I understand that he's had success hitting as a pitcher, but still really difficult to project him to be an above average hitter. I think just kind of more of an experiment by Cincinnati. So you have him hitting 6th. You have just a lot of strikeouts in this particular lineup. Normally, they're a team that doesn't strike out a ton, but no Votto, no Jose Iglesias. So just a better matchup than normal. If you go through this lineup against left-handed pitching, a 32% strikeout percentage for Aquino, 25.5 for Suarez, 24 for Irvin. Casali's a difficult strikeout. So is Peraza. So is Blandino. But Josh Van Meter's up around 30%. I expect Lorenzen to be a high strikeout guy, and then you have the pitcher as well. So pretty favorable matchup for Hamels. 8,700 on DraftKings, I think, is a perfectly fair price tag. But on FanDuel, he's 7,600, and on Yahoo, he's $35. So really stands out on those sites as a good option as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think so as well. Especially being that, if you're stacking some of these pricey teams, it's going to be tough to, get to a Strasburg. And, on DraftKings, Berrios is overpriced. Cole Hamels seems to make a lot of sense here at that specific price point, more so because of where he's priced, not because of who he is. What about the other side? And we talk Hamels. Do you have any interest in Gausman?
I'm trying to pull up. He was on the injured list, right?
Yeah, but he is. Hold on, I'm pretty sure he was. No, well, he pitched. No, he was out of the bullpen.
Okay, yeah. I'll say I know he hadn't started in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't have interest in him. Just a tough matchup against the Cubs. I think he is worth pointing out because he's $25 on Yahoo, but you don't really need that when Hamels is 35, when Berrios is 40. I don't think it's going to be very difficult to make lineups over there. So not particularly interested in Gausman.
Okay. What about batters against Gausman for the Cubs? Again, it's one of this for being in Chicago right now. Time of year, it's 68 degrees. It's actually pretty favorable pitching weather.
Yeah, not great hitting weather here. Normally against Gausman, you're looking for right-handed power in particular. So Nick Castellanos, Chris Bryant, Wilson Contreras are the 3 guys that stand out the most. They do have a decent implied run total as well. I don't think that I like them as much as the Twins or Oakland, though, or obviously the teams in Coors Field. So more of secondary options. I think, maybe grabbing those guys as one-offs because Gausman does have some issues with right-handed power.
Okay. Anything else here? Either side? Any one-offs against Cole Hamels, just knowing that he is a good pitcher, but Eugenio Suarez is a quality hitter. Aquino, anybody you like here as one-offs for Cincinnati?
Yeah, 2, 3, and 4 in that Cincinnati lineup. They do strike out Aquino, Suarez, and Irvin, but all 3 of them are pretty decent hitters. Since last season, Irvin has a 133 WRC plus against lefties. Suarez is at 158, and then in a really small sample this year, Aquino is at 160, and obviously is been hitting really, really well. So those guys all stand out as pretty good one-offs. They're affordable as well.
He has expectedly come back down to earth, but that's kind of expected. It's just really hard to believe that, he would stay where he was, which would literally make him the best hitter to ever play the game. And I don't think any of us anticipated that happening.
Yeah, most guys that start out hitting 6 home runs a game come back to earth.
Yes, that's right. Colorado, New York Mets, Coors Field. Like I mentioned, 87 degrees at first pitch. It's going to be a hot game there, and I think it's going to be. Well, I know you're going to see a ton of ownership. 17% going to the Mets, 14% going to the Cubs, to the Rockies. But here's the crazy part: top stack probability, 32% for the Mets, 11% for the Rockies. 11% for Oakland. Those are the three teams above 10%, but the Mets are at 31.6%, Adam.
Yeah, 8.3 implied run total will do that. Really, they're affordable too. You have a few expensive guys, but like Brandon Nimmo's leading off at 4,400. That's a clear top value option. Thomas Nido catching is 3K. Not that he's any good, but it gives you another cheap batting course field. Makes it a little bit easier to get to the full stack. McNeil, Conforto, Alonso are all expensive, but they should be. They're really good hitters. They're facing a pitcher in Senzatella who isn't very good. 13% strikeout percentage for Senzatella against righties, 11.6% against lefties. Lefties have a 418 WOBA, 219 ISO against him. Righties 332, 156. So he has, as you would expect, been better against right-handed hitters. But it sets up really nicely for the top four hitters in this lineup are all left-handed. Then you get Pete Alonso, who obviously has massive power. Just a phenomenal spot for the Mets.
Yeah, no question. Who are your top bats here, factoring in price?
Nimmo's number one, and then I think McNeil, Conforto, Alonso.
What about the Rockies here? Much lower top stack chances, but also a good park. And Matz is a pretty average pitcher. He's not a bad pitcher, but he's also very prone to coughing up power to righties. We talk about this quite a bit. And you've got Story and Arenado in the 1 and 3 hole, but it's an odd lineup to stack based on those lefties in the 2, 4, and 5. What are you doing with the Rockies?
I think that those lefties maybe go a little bit under-owned relative to where they should be, because they all can hold their own against left-handed pitching, and Matz isn't a dominant pitcher. He's against lefties. So far this year, he struck out 20.2% of lefties compared to 23.1% of righties. He's allowed a 212 ISO, a 351 WOBA to lefties. So not a guy that comes in and strikes out like 30% of left-handed hitters. And then since last year, Charlie Blackmon, a 113 WRC plus, Ryan McMahon, 108, Daniel Murphy, 96. So those guys are all fine. And then, of course, Story and Arenado are both just phenomenal plays against Matt. So I think that, and then, Ian Desmond hitting 6th has been above average against left-handed pitching as well. So I think that the Rockies maybe, because of the setup of that lineup, get a little bit less ownership than they otherwise should. Right now on the top stack tool, we have them being a little bit over-owned, but I think there's a good chance that it's just, a lot of ownership going to Story, Arenado, maybe Desmond, and then kind of just being, but like the full stack probably being a little bit lower owned.
Yeah, I think so too. People don't like playing lefties against lefties though. So I think, the top stack chance is what, 11%, but in this matchup against Coors or against Mats, it is a very exploitable spot. I don't think there's any question about that. Warm weather game, best hitters park in the league. It's really not crazy. And I think you already pointed it out, but there are a number of these Colorado bats that probably because they're lefties in this lefty-lefty matchup are not expensive at all, whether it be McMahon or Murphy. Blackman's coming in at 5,400, but really not crazy price points on any of them. I'll ask the same thing outside of Arenado and Story, which I'm assuming are your two top bats from this team. Who else would you put up at the top for the Rockies in a stack?
Yeah, I mean, $4,100 Ian Desmond stands out. 116 WRC plus since last year against left-handed pitching. But I did just pull up the DraftKings ownership projections, and it looks exactly like I had expected it to. You have a lot of ownership going to Story, Arenado, Desmond's at 16%, Hampson and Butera getting some because they're cheap, but then Blackman's 8%, McMahon's 7%. So I do think that Blackman is a really good tournament play.
Okay. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports is the sponsor of the Deeper Dive, by the way. That's right. They got the 500K baller coming up this weekend. Pretty exciting. 150 max. Start entering those lineups now. How many did you end up getting in?
All of them. So I got 81 entered before lock, and then I just put in a dummy lineup with guys from the late games and then finished those after lock.
That doesn't seem very plus EV.
Yeah. I mean, I like broke even.
What?
What?
Did you say?
I said I like broke even on Yahoo.
Oh, all right, not bad. I meant the fact that you put in a dummy lineup and then just swap. So what? You had like a 70 lineups with a certain core of players.
The ones before lock were just like normal lineups, and then after lock, I just had a bunch of Kansas City game stacks. And
right, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
and then you just worked around them with 4 p.m. guys. That Rams Saints game was just horrendous, man.
Yeah, it could have been a really nice day for me if like that game hadn't sucked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think a lot of us would echo that sentiment. But yeah, the 50K to first baller. One thing I really like about this too, it's not the $1 million one. I get that, but the payouts are awesome, and it's just like the slant on DraftKings, which everyone was really happy about. 50K to first, 30K to second, 20K to third, 10K to fourth. So you don't finish second place and make 10,000. You're still getting that 30, which is really nice. So go ahead and check that out. Use the sign up code Awesemo, or go to awesemo.com hit the MLB tab. Right on the landing page, you'll see the Spotlight Hitters article. The link is right there at the top of the article, completely free article. Click on that, sign up using the link. And when you do and deposit, you get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points, which are as good as cash to use on the site, play, win, and deposit and withdraw your money and your winnings. And there's a bunch of no entry fee or no management fee contests as well. So everything you put into those contests comes right back out to you as the player. A lot of great stuff this football season happening at Yahoo, and also plenty of baseball contests for tonight, and plenty of PGA coming up as well. So get in there, awesemo.com, MLB tab, Spotlight Hitters, and the link is right there at the top of the free article. You sign up and get your YSRPs. All right, Adam, let's talk about Arizona and Miami. Robby Ray, Pablo Lopez. We'll get to Ray, but what are you doing with Lopez first? Is there any interest at this price point?
Yeah, on DraftKings. I don't think that you need to get there on Yahoo. Like, I would rather roster Cole Hamels or even Roark. But 5,500 on DraftKings, he's a pretty decent pitcher. 4.35 Sierra, just shy of a 22% strikeout percentage. It's not a good strikeout matchup against the Diamondbacks. They have an average strikeout percentage, excluding Robby Ray, of about 19%. So that's not great. But it's also a pretty weak lineup. Most hitters in this lineup are below average. The average WRC plus for the lineup is 89. So a pretty good spot there for Lopez, and the price tag is just really appealing on DraftKings.
Okay. Hey, by the way, let me backpedal for 1 second. Lorenzen's $2,100 on DraftKings. He's looked terrible in these limited opportunities. He's starting at center field today. He has not looked good as a hitter. There's really no denying that. But if you are stacking expensive games or playing pricey pitchers, do you see any way that you're saying, all right, well, you know what? He's basically the dead min, and it might just be okay to throw him in there?
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Glad you mentioned it, because I expect him to be a below average hitter, but he does have power.
And he's batting sixth.
Right. Yeah, he's batting sixth, and he has power, and that's really just a really good price point for someone that has the power that he does. So far in the major leagues, he has a 228 ISO in 126 plate appearances. He has 97 WRC plus. So yeah, I do think that's a good call.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it definitely opens things up if you need it, and allows you to get those Coors stacks in there, or if you wanted to get Strasburg with another relatively expensive pitcher. Lorenzen's definitely cheap. Arizona and Miami. What about? Well, you got to Lopez already. What about Robby Ray against the Marlins?
I think he stands out as a top play on all sites, but on DraftKings, where he's less expensive than Strasburg and Berrios, I think he's the best. I think he's a better play on DraftKings than the other sites because of his salary relative to Berrios. It's not a particularly good strikeout matchup here. Miguel Rojas, Starlin Castro, Harold Ramirez, Martin Prado are all difficult strikeout guys. Miami's active roster only strikes out about 21% against left-handed pitching, but Ray does have the highest strikeout percentage on the slate, up over 30%. And this game's in Arizona. It's a perfectly fine spot to pitch, and Miami, while they don't strike out a ton, don't have a lot of good hitters either. So I do like Ray a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a pretty appealing spot. And even if it's not the greatest strikeout spot, there just aren't a ton of great matchups with guys that are priced in a spot where you really like them. So I think Ray does stand out a bit on DraftKings. Now, what about hitters here? It's not at Marlins Park. It's at Chase Field, which has been pretty neutral. What are your thoughts on bats from either side?
Yeah, so one negative, I just looked, the roof's actually open here. So
Okay.
that is favorable for offenses. And I think that's probably why you see a 5.5 implied run total for Arizona. It's much more of a pitcher's park when the roof's closed, but gets a little bit more neutral with the roof open. So I think that right now we actually have Arizona projected to be a little bit underowned. And you do get some nice value there because you have Josh Rojas at the top of the order, or batting second, who's inexpensive. Wilmer Flores is leading off, and he's cheap. And then you get good hitters with Marte, Escobar, and then you can just round it out with another cheap guy. So I think they're in a decent spot. I would still put them behind Coors Field, behind Minnesota, behind Oakland.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, 5.5 run total. By the way, 3.7 for Miami still. So that's not really encouraging if you were fading Robby Ray. It actually really favors him. I think you're right, though. It's not the greatest spot. It is Miami, but we've said it all season long. Teams are in much better spots against, or pitchers are in much better spots against the Marlins when they throw with their right hand. It's just, been the case all season long for obvious reasons. And, how lefty or how righty heavy this Marlins offense is, it only makes sense. Let's get to the last game here. Oakland and Kansas City. Tanner Roark and Glen Sparkman. Well, we'll get to Sparkman in a minute. We'll get to the bats in a second. But what are you doing with Tanner Roark, if anything? He's $9,300 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's down at $7,900, which is your fifth highest priced pitcher. And on Yahoo, you've got Tanner Roark coming in at your fourth highest at $38, more expensive than Hamels, and slightly less expensive than Jose Berrios.
I think that he's most appealing on Yahoo and FanDuel. I would still put him behind Berrios. I'd put him behind Cole Hamels in that same price range, but it is a good park. 3.5 implied run total for Kansas City, and just not a great Kansas City offense. Their top five are all average to above average hitters, but then beyond that, you get Bubba Starling, O'Hearn, who since last year has actually been above average, but will strike out some. Veloria and Phillips both have high strikeout percentages as well. Not a favorable park for hitting, only 63 degrees also. So, not a priority for me anywhere, but on Yahoo and FanDuel, I think you can mix him in after you get, however much Berrios and Hamels you're looking to get.
All right. How much Glen Sparkman will you have?
0.
Oh, okay. I thought you might be intrigued here by that $4,900 price tag.
No, I just don't really think that you need it on this slate. Like, there are enough cheap bats that you can fill your lineups out with, and he just isn't good at all.
Yeah, he's Glen Sparkman.
Yeah, exactly. For the season, he has a 13.3% strikeout percentage, 5.57 SIERA, and he's got a really tough matchup against Oakland, a team that doesn't strike out a lot. They have a 6.2 implied run total, despite it being 63 degrees in Oakland. Would much rather get to these Oakland bats that we actually have projected to be a little bit underowned as well.
Yeah, we're going to get to the Oakland bats, but I want to start with Kansas City for a moment. Tanner Roark still struggles with lefties. That's been the case for quite some time now. I want to ask about Adalberto Mondesi because he's $4,300 on DraftKings. He's $3,300 on FanDuel and $1,500 on Yahoo. Obviously, he has upside, can produce in a multitude of ways, has 39 swipes on the season despite being out for a period of time. Not a huge power guy, but I guess that kind of helps him on a park like this where you don't expect him to hit for power. What do you think of that price tag on Mondesi? It does feel like a discount against a guy that will struggle with lefties.
Yeah, I think it's a really solid price point. Shortstop obviously has Trevor Story at the top, but then it does thin out a little bit too. So I think that there's not as much opportunity cost to the position as there are at some other ones on this slate. And you mentioned just the fact that he can get there in so many ways, whether it's hitting or just picking up steals. Roark throughout his career has kind of bounced back and forth between being above average and below average at holding runners. I think it's probably pretty fair to just say that it's a neutral matchup, but Mondesi will try and go. So I think that he's a pretty good one-off.
He's been pretty good for most of his career, honestly. He's only allowed double-digit stolen bases in one season, but we saw it last year with Merrifield and Mondesi. It didn't matter who they were facing. They were going to run.
Yeah, exactly.
It really didn't matter. And now that you don't lose points for caught stealing, give me the upside all day long. There's always, even if these guys are decent at holding runners, the runners have more than a 50% chance of getting there. So I like it quite a bit. Anyone else from Kansas City?
I think that they're cheap, but it's just that there are so many other spots to get to on this slate. Like The pricing on all 5 of the top 5 hitters in this lineup is affordable, but Mondesi is really the only one that stands out to me.
Okay. All right. Talk to me about these Oakland hitters here.
Just a good spot against Sparkman. Obviously, the park isn't great, but that's really the only negative that I have to say. 13.3% strikeout percentage, like I mentioned before. He's allowed 2.05 home runs per 9. You have pretty cheap pricing on guys like Seth Brown, Chris Davis, even Matt Chapman at 4,300. I think is way too cheap. Matt Olson's a great play at first base if you want to get away from the Coors Field bats. Pete Alonso should drive Olson's ownership down a bit too, since Olson is only $500 less on DraftKings, and Alonso's obviously going to have a lot of ownership. So I think that they're just a really high upside tournament stack. It's not great hitting conditions. It's not a great park, but we do have them with the highest non-Coors Field top stack percentage on the slate, and there's just going to be so much ownership going to Coors that I think you can get some lower owned bats from the A's.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your favorite pitchers here. You can find Adam's deep dive on awesemo.com. It's a premium article, but it's well worth reading. Puts a lot of time into that every day, and really gets into the weeds with these pitching matchups to get you exactly where you need to go every day. You didn't really show a ton of interest in most pitchers here, so I know you have tepid interest in a couple of these cheap guys. Where would you put your most interest in pitching now that we've covered this entire slate?
Yeah, so now that, and I mentioned it before that I didn't have the Reds lineup, but Hamels I'm a lot more interested in Hamels now than I was earlier today. I think that the weather there is favorable, and it's just a pretty good lineup for him. So I think that on all 3 sites, he's favorably priced. I think Berrios on FanDuel and Yahoo is a really good play, and then Ray on DraftKings is a really good play.
All right. So and I'm going to name a couple names here that I know you don't have interest in, but I'm just giving you the names that are below 7K. We'll use DraftKings. Reynaldo Lopez against Minnesota, Zack Davies at home against San Diego, Pablo Lopez on the road against Arizona, then Glen Sparkman at Oakland, Antonio Senzatella at Coors against the Mets. I feel like, as ugly and as horrible as it sounds, if I ended up getting to a little Davies, I would just grin and bear it.
Yeah, I think Davies and Pablo Lopez are the 2 that fit that criteria for me, where they're just going to be necessary, particularly on DraftKings, to get into some lineups. Again, I don't think that they're necessary on Yahoo because their pitcher pricing is a bit softer today. But on DraftKings, it's just a cheap pitcher where you can at least make some argument for why they could have success.
Okay, so EMAC has a question. I'm going to throw it to you. EMAC in premium Slack chat, which if you do sign up with us at awesemo.com, introduce yourself in the Slack chat. We're a friendly bunch. Premium Slack chat, talking DFS all day long. How much consideration for the Robby Ray blister issue continuing? What do you think?
He said that he was good. He threw a 37-pitch bullpen. There's an article that says that he doesn't that he thinks it's going to be a non-issue. Or Torey Lovello said that he thinks it's a non-issue. He also said, obviously, I was saying that last time, and you saw what happened. But they think that he's fine.
Okay, fair enough. Right now, with the top stack tool, give you a little look inside. Ownership going heavily towards the Mets and Rockies, with Arizona, Oakland, Miami, and the Cubs bringing it up the rear as your top 6. Top stack probability, you got the Mets, Rockies, Oakland, Minnesota, and Arizona, and Milwaukee down, or Minnesota, Arizona, Milwaukee, but 32% going to the Mets. Who are your top stacks today?
The Mets, the Rockies, and then beyond that, I think Oakland and Minnesota.
Okay. I'm going to throw Milwaukee in there. Garrett Richards, while I think he is a decent pitcher, we've also seen many instances where this guy is just horrible and not what we expected him to be. He got blasted in his couple appearances as in rehab starts. And Milwaukee is not only inexpensive, but they are getting very little ownership right now. The 3rd lowest ownership above only the Padres and St. Louis, but also they've got the 6th highest top stack chance. So I don't think it's a crazy spot, but you said something important. Definitely more appealing as a stack, not as one-offs.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Anything else before we hand it off to Jake Hurry and Josh Engelman for this wonderful Live Before Lock, which then they will hand off to EMAC and Nolan Kelly for your Live Before Lock on Monday Night Football Showdown slate?
Just a reminder on the Colorado ownership, because I think it is really important. We talk a lot about the top stack tool and being able to see teams that are going a bit overowned, but you do want to be conscious and pay attention to where, how that ownership is actually playing out. I talk about it a lot, that I pay attention to the individual ownership of everyone in my lineups as opposed to just the team ownership. And I think that's really important tonight, because you can get the best hitters on the Rockies at lower aggregate ownership, because most of the ownership for Colorado is being driven to Story, Arenado, Desmond, and then the two cheap value guys. So using the lefties lets you get Colorado at lower ownership than you otherwise would.
Absolutely. All right, that'll do it for us. Stay tuned. Josh Engelman, Jake Hari coming up next on this same page. Don't go anywhere. Live Before Lock coming up next.
Heyo, we are live. Is the tweet out yet? Nope, that's not going to come out for 14 minutes, so let me do that manually. What's up, everybody? Live Before Lock, baseball edition, and it's 6:34, which makes it always seem like we're late, but we're not. Games are starting later today. Kind of weird. Jake, what's going on since we last spoke?
You know, just grinding some NHL preseason news, getting my showdown lineups ready, using all the tools on the site. Yeah, man, it's been a pretty good day, I think. A lot of stuff going on. NHL is almost back, too. So that's the important news.
How many days?
I think, let's see, 16 maybe? 16 days?
There you go.
A couple Wednesdays from now, yeah.
There you go. Basketball, 5 weeks or so. It's exciting stuff. It's exciting times.
Yeah.
we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer to, being able to talk about our passion projects, NHL and NBA.
That's right.
But today, we are going to talk about this lovely 7-gamer without a hint of interesting pitching options. So let's do it. Live Before Lock is the promo code. 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus. Any monthly package you choose. And by any monthly package, I mean just the Platinum Monthly package, which I believe is the only monthly package that exists now. So go grab the Platinum Monthly. Use the promo code Live Before Lock. Get 50% off your first month with us. We are brought to you on this lovely Live Before Lock show by Fantasydraft. They are the premier rake-free site in the industry. And let's see, do they have NFL posted? They do. So NFL contests are live for week 3. Fantasydraft is going to be running their $750K Hooters main event, $100K to first. It's a $25 entry fee, $30,000 entry cap. And if you want to play in that and play for $1,000 in your first 7 days, completely rake-free, all you have to do is use the promo code Awesemo when signing up. So go to fantasydraft.com to do that. Got to be 18 years of age or older, but they're running another excellent rake-free contest, and you can enter that up after signing up using our promo code. Can't really beat it. So shout out to Fantasydraft, shout out to Hooters. They've got other fantastic contests. They've got a $4 with a $72,000 guaranteed prize pool, $10K to first. You get $1,000 for 6, so a really nice payout structure. Go check out what Fantasydraft has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, you got to play on Fantasydraft.
Yep.
It's just the contests are too good. You're saving too much money, not like wasting your time. Not wasting your time. You can play other sites too, but you should be going to rake-free contests to a site that's trying to do rake-free DFS. So I'll be running it back for week 3. Wow, already week 3 for NFL. And they actually have some pretty nice MLB contests for tonight that I'm going to get in right now.
If this is true, I saved $65 in rake this Sunday.
Yeah, let's say I played I think I saved over $100 this weekend. I played like the $1 and the $4 on Fantasydraft. So saved a good chunk of change, even though I did not win money. I still lost less than I would have at some other sites.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I took a little screenshot from Inside Fantasy Draft right now. My rake-free savings, $65. Sunday was the first night that I took a real stab at it to play for NFL. So it made a rough NFL day slightly better. I would have just been down $65 more.
Perfect.
Can't beat it. Let's talk bats. Or actually, let's talk pitching, rather. I don't know why we would go in reverse order. Have we gotten an ownership update in the last couple minutes?
In the last couple minutes? I don't think so.
Okay, last one was an hour ago, but we'll work on that now. Not a lot of changes. We had all of the lineups right before the deeper dive started anyway. So At the top, 4 guys in the 20s. Strasburg at 20, Berrios at 21, Robby Ray at 39, Tanner Roark at 27. Who is the guy that stands out most to you in that group?
I think it's going to be, well, it depends on the site.
Okay.
On Draftkings, I think it's going to be Hamels. He's the guy I got the most of right now.
He's not even one of the guys I named, so go for it. Talk to me more about Cole Hamels.
Oh, I don't know. He's at the top. I guess he's my top-owned guy. Yeah, he's only 8,700. I forgot about that. I would like to get up to a bunch of Robby Ray. He's my second guy in that tier. But, yeah, I mean, we talked about it this morning, just that it's a pretty decent spot. It's a low implied total, under 4 right now for the Reds. Not saying anything crazy in the Reds lineup. Lorenzen's in there. That's a relief pitcher, even though he's been a good hitter. Like Adam and Lofty were saying, hard to project him as anything better than an average hitter at best long term. I just think it's a pretty decent spot for Hamels, and the ownership is warranted, I think, on him.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't. I don't know what I was just looking at or what wasn't refreshed, because I didn't include Hamels because he wasn't over 20, and then I clicked refresh and he was at 36, and he's the chalk pitcher of the slate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good work calling that out. I will say this much: I have 9%.
Just 9.
Just 9. 44 to Berrios, 25 to Ray, 31 to Tanner Roark, 9 to Cole Hamels. So we are running slightly opposite today.
My hitting exposures are outrageous. So you'll see pretty soon why I have so much Hamels and not as much Ray. But
is it because you have a lot of the Coors game?
Yeah.
I have 63% as of right now.
63%
of the Coors game. Of all of my hitting exposure.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I have
for now. I mean, I'm waiting till ownership to start like really cranking the dials, but Rockies and Mets flying off the page.
Yeah, we need the ownership on Tomas Nido, and I think that's the only guy. Shaun Murphy. So 2 guys were missing in the ownership projections. So once we get those, I'll know for sure. But right now, it's an outrageous amount of New York Mets.
So I assume you're getting like no Strasburg?
Let's see here.
He's at 22% right now. I've got 5 here.
I had 0.
Okay. I mean, we're both essentially not playing him.
Yeah.
Whether you had 0 or 5, I don't think you'd be paying attention to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then let's talk about Berrios. I've got 44 right now. What have you got?
Let's see. I didn't get to a lot of Berrios either. Let me see. Yeah, I only got to I got to 3% of him.
Okay.
Just because of the price point.
You just don't want to be a homer today?
Yeah, I just don't want to be a homer. Like I said, Berrios, it's a good spot for him, but when the projections came out, it is just overwhelmingly, I think the optimal line of construction is just to play one of Hamels or Ray. I guess you could include Berrios in there, but he doesn't project quite as well as these other guys. And spend down for your SP2 and just pay up for every bat possible on this slate. And so I think we've got Ray above Berrios, so that just makes it tough for me to get there with the extra $400. That's the only reason. If he was projected higher than Robby Ray, I would get a bunch more Berrios, but that's not the case right now.
Yeah, let me grab Alex's most recent update. Get it in here so we can take a peek at it. Draftkings copy. Paste. Refresh. Okay, so yeah, it looks like Berrios is going to slip through the cracks then for you.
Yeah, there's just 2 guys next to him, better values, cheaper, similar point projections. Even Roark, I mean, he's just cheaper. They project for similar values.
Yeah, I didn't expect to get as much Roark as I have, but 32 as of right now, slightly north of the field. That's not a spot that I normally feel like being. Did you get to any pitchers you didn't think you would get to at all? Like, I have 5% Sparkman now.
I have exactly 5% Sparkman. That's exactly what I was going to say as well.
I have 4.8, but I'll round up.
I got to some Reynaldo Lopez.
I have 1.6%. So
okay, I'm a little bit heavier on him. I had 15%.
Okay.
I think I need to pull back the Mets hitters just a little bit, because right now my highest owned player on the slate is Pablo Lopez.
Have you looked at the top stacks tool?
What's up?
You probably don't want to dial back the Mets.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So I factor that in.
Oh, okay,
so
it's already in there. Okay, gotcha.
They're getting massive bumps. If I put everyone as the same top stack probability and ownership share, so everyone's on equal playing field, it's just projections and just all the stuff I usually do, and don't factor in the top stack tool. Let's see where I'm at in that. My exposures will change drastically, but I still end up with a ton of Lopez and a ton of Mets. Man, they didn't even change very much. I don't know what's going on here. I can't get away from the Mets at all. Like, I can't even. Yeah, I think every lineup I have tonight might have a Met in it.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad place to be when they have a 30-something% chance of being in the top stack or being the top stack, and their ownership is like half of that.
31. They were at 31%.
Yeah, so
that's the highest I've seen on a slate of this size.
That's monstrous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a lot. I'm getting to a ton of the Rockies, like more so than the Mets naturally. So that's going to be the place where I try to just trim the Rockies back a little bit. Once we see ownership, bump up the Twins, bump up the A's, and we'll see sort of where we end up. But the Mets, I'm already at twice the field. Wouldn't mind being north of that as well.
Yeah.
Where are you with Zack Davies and Pablo Lopez? I will tell you that I have 77% between the two of them.
Between Davies and Lopez?
Davies and Pablo Lopez.
Yeah. I forgot. Reynaldo is a thing. I have, like I said, 84% Pablo Lopez right now. Like, he's just the bat. Like, I haven't had this weird of exposures the whole season. And it's because of what's going on with the Mets here. So Lopez, I think, is the best value option.
Yeah.
And I think that's reflected in the projections. I would like to spread around the exposure a little bit more and not get to 84. Like, I'd take, 50, somewhere around there, because he's just too cheap for how good of a pitcher he is. The park being open, of course, hurts him a little bit. I think we mentioned that on the show this morning, though. And it's not like a great lineup for strikeouts, but he's just the best one in this range by a mile. And that extra salary to get up to like a Davies or someone like that really, really matters to me tonight.
That's so much Pablo Lopez, dude.
Yeah, I hope it comes
I don't
down.
think you're wrong. Like, of all the options on the slate, he's probably the best point per dollar play of the day.
Well, he's getting filtered into all of my lineups that could even fit Davies too, is the thing, because Pablo is right now we have him at 18% ownership with Davies at 20. So Davies is higher owned, so that's going to push him down.
Yeah.
Even if Davies had a higher point projection, but Lopez, let's see where he's at. Lopez is just, am I reading this right? Yeah, Lopez is just much higher than him from a point projection standpoint already. So anytime the ranking system gets between those two guys, it's always going to favor Pablo.
Where do you think you end up? Do you think you end up north of 80 once we get this new ownership update? Let's just say that ownership stays relatively neutral. Are you going to try to get off of any of it?
I don't think so. I think well, first of all, I'm not playing super high stakes tonight. Like, I'm just playing the mini max and stuff like that. I didn't register for anything crazy tonight. Like I said, NHL is back-ish. I'm playing Showdown, so I've got a lot of different stake in sports tonight. But I do think the right play is to be overweight on Pablo. I do think he's the best option by a pretty good margin, and ownership does not look like the field is doing that. So I guess just take advantage, and I think this spot works out more often than not for Lopez compared to a Zack Davies or Reynaldo Lopez or someone like that.
So, going to take a brief break here from talking baseball. You head to Osimo_com. We've got Osimo_com Twitter handle. We've got another giveaway going on today. So, if you would like to receive a 2019 NFL Osimo Plus Season Pass, all you have to do is guess the total amount of receiving yards that Odell Beckham Jr. will have on Monday Night Football tonight against the Jets. Head to Osimo_com, the Twitter handle. You're going to need to like that tweet, retweet, and reply to it with your guess for the amount of yards that OBJ will have tonight. You need to be following Osimo_com and the @Osimo NFL account. We will be locking it down. I'll picks and guesses need to be in by 8:20 Eastern today. We will be announcing those winners tomorrow at noon. But that's all you have to do. And you can get a free year of our NFL content. What is not to like there? All it's going to cost you is about 20 seconds of your time. So give it your best guess and try and win a nice little giveaway. $249 value on the giveaway. So go check it out. The pinned tweet at awesemo_com. That is the Twitter handle. And Alex's Showdown Rankings are free. There is a link to those in the pinned tweet as well if you want to go check it out. If you've never seen what we've got to offer, you can go see the rankings directly from the boss man, Alex Baker himself. Jake, how many yards does Odell Beckham Jr. get tonight?
Let's see. I got a lot of Odell in the captain spot lineups. So I'm thinking like 141, somewhere around there. I think he's going to have a big game. I love Odell. Okay. He's one of my favorite players to watch. So I'm also just rooting with my heart there. But I doubt – I looked at a couple guesses and they were like in the 80s, 90s and stuff like that. But I got him going for over 100.
Bluff guessed -2. Tears ACL on a wide receiver screen first play.
Well, I mean, if that even comes close to coming true,
that's contrarian.
We need to check that guy out and see what he knows that we don't. But yeah,
give me 113.
113. All right, so we're both on the same page. He's gonna have a big game. The question will be, do they need him? Like his upside in yards might be capped because of this game possibly getting out of hand. What is the Vegas line on this game? Might be something interesting to know.
I have no idea, but
Let's see. I can look it up.
I might beat you to it. It is 6.5. Browns are favored by 6.5 in New York.
Well, seems like a lot. I mean, just for a team that was a 7-win team last year. I know they're supposed to be better than that, but that game script would suggest that maybe you have the Browns being up by a lot, so maybe you guess a lower number on Odell, because I think a ton of people are high on the Browns in this game.
As myself, they should be.
Yeah. Like you could easily see a scenario in which he gets going early, doesn't have that huge play though, and he ends up with like 48 yards because the Browns just ice it away in the second half.
Alrighty.
So funny.
What?
What's so funny?
You see what I got tagged in? Friend of the program, LL Cool Jeff said, "Very mature of you, Josh. Didn't guess 69. Nah, I'm a grown man. To be honest, I almost guessed 169. Felt like too many yards.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Felt like too many yards. Any pitchers that we need to touch on that we haven't touched on? To me, it's basically just like a 5-horse race. No Senzatella, no Gausman, Hudson, Richards, Motts. I don't know why I said it like that. Matt. I don't know. Has anything changed for you with regards to Robby Ray up against the Marlins?
No, nothing's changed. Just the price. I'm double punting, pitching a lot on DK at least. And, well, I'm getting to a lot of Ray on Fantasydraft. I'm finding it much, much easier to get to him over there. Other guy, like I said, I didn't think I would get to Reynaldo at all, but I got to 15% on DraftKings. Got to a share of him on Fantasydraft. It's whatever. It's just a price play, as everyone is tonight. I got to 14% Mats. Did you get to any of him at all?
Zilch.
That's probably the smarter exposure to have is 0. But I'm just playing anyone that has a pulse tonight for pitching. And he's good correlation as well. If you are stacking Mets, you hope that he just gets you 5 and gets you a win and double-digit points. You might be in good shape.
How much bats did you say you had?
14%.
Okay, that's not too bad.
No.
I don't think I've had 14% Steven Matz when he wasn't pitching in cores, though, so kind of scary.
Oh, there's been slates this year where I've had like 40% Matz.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay. We're getting close to the midway point, but we're not quite there. But honestly, let's just do it so that we can be can get this out of the way. Take a bunch of questions and stuff from everybody as we get closer to 7:30. So lock is at 7:40, correct?
Yep, 7:40 Eastern time.
We are going to sign off at 7:30 to make way for Emac and Nolan doing NFL Live Before Lock for this Browns Jets game. So when we sign off, stick around on the channel. Coming up immediately after we're done, Emac and Nolan will be going live to talk some football. Let's do some dong picks. We haven't had any in the past 2 days because of the NFL. And unfortunately, I'm sad to talk about this. You and Emac both got one on Friday. And helped to pull away a little bit more from me. I am now 3 back of Emac and 2 back of you. So Emac has 31. Jake has 30. I've got 28. Bags has 24. Randone has 11. I am still the leader in the clubhouse in pick rate. I'm feeling good there. Both Jake and Emac have passed Chris in pick rate, which is even better. And then, so Chris is in 4th, and then Randone coming in 5th. Jake, the floor is yours. Who would you like as your dong pick today?
Let's see. You got to scroll down a bit to get to a non-Coors player.
Yeah.
How about a team that I never get to enough of is my hometown team, I guess, the Twins. But, man, I'm not playing like any of them, so it would be unfair of me to root for that. So I will go with I'll go with Matt Chapman.
I like it. He's got really
Sparky.
Yeah, no issues with it at all. The park scares me, so that's the only reason I wouldn't get there. But he's got a fantastic home run prop, so no complaints whatsoever there on Chapman. I guess this is happening.
Who you got?
So I was going to go to Nelson Cruz because he's number 1 in the model. Surprise, surprise. But I just took him, and it just doesn't feel right. So my options are Rosario, Sano, or Mitch Garver. Those are where I'm leaning. I don't want to go to Rosario. Sano has shown more success in this spot, so give me Miguel Sano.
I mean, there's a bunch of teams with big implied totals tonight for being a mid-sized slate, and the Twins are one of them. I would have taken a lefty off of Reynaldo, though. I would have taken Rosario or Polanco. I think Sano in the 7 spot. That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, he's got a better home run prop than Rosario right now.
Does he really?
Yeah, and it's relatively neutral to Garver, but Garver was grading out a little bit worse for me personally, so I split the difference. It was between Garver and Sano for me. Obviously, I just didn't want to take Cruz. It didn't feel as fun.
Winning's fun.
Pick is in Emac Nelson Cruz.
There you go. No,
that one's gonna sting.
Yep.
No shame in Emac's game.
Yeah, he's gonna get like 2 of them, and at least he would have tied me. But then now Emac's gonna pull away with his Nelson Cruz double down here.
It's a great pick. I mean, cool with it.
Yeah, fantastic. I
don't know if we're gonna get anybody else here.
Yeah, we're waiting on Spags and Randone.
Yeah. So Emac in with Nelson Cruz. I've got Sano, Jake's got Chapman. E. McBee about to let us know how they rank in his personal model. Let's see who that's going to be. E. McBee is typing.
Is this true? This $25 on Fantasydraft is 20. It's only got 16 out of 80 entries in it.
What?
Is this for real? Go to Fantasydraft. See, am I just not refreshing something correctly?
Yeah, 25. There's 80 entries.
There's 80 total entries.
Yeah.
How many are? How full is it?
16 of 80 are in there right now.
That seems like a very little amount, does it not?
Little amount for what? It probably just opened.
That's not going to fill, is it?
Lock is in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They barely need one person per minute.
I guess.
And you can enter 3 times.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. Brick in there 3 times. Maybe I shouldn't enter that. I was just gonna put
I'm not telling you to not keep an eye on it or anything, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be like shocked if it filled with time to spare. I mean, hell, let me crunch out some fantasy draft lineups and I'll pop 3 in there just in case it goes well. I'll compete with you if you want.
I'm not in it yet. You're scaring me off of entering right now.
All right, are you going to put 3 in there?
No, I'm not in it yet.
But are you planning on putting 3 in there?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Okay. I was going to say, let's put it in there and we'll, I don't know.
I put 30 in the $5.
Okay.
I maxed that. I think it's full though. I think I got the last of the entries there.
I'm gonna run a crunch right now for fantasy draft.
All right.
And just see what comes out. And if it looks like, it'll be close to not filling, but maybe I'll just get in it either way. Let me grab projections here.
Jake was like, I'm gonna bank here. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, if there were like 2 minutes before lock, I'd have been like, yeah, that's a great eye. Just jam in. But I think that fills pretty easily. I could be wrong. I have no idea how quickly that things have been filling. So I don't really have anything to base it on. But I
bet it gets like 65, 70 out of 80, probably.
I mean, I hope you're right. But I assume that they fill with very little effort.
The big brother, little brother dynamic between these two makes the show, Cantor says. Do we have that?
I don't know.
Big brother, little brother? Yeah. I'd be the big brother then, I suppose? Or?
Probably.
No.
I mean, probably emotionally, yeah.
I don't think so.
I'm pretty much a 34-year-old child, so.
I mean, I'm pretty much a 24-year-old child. I forgot the other day for like, it felt like 10 minutes, but it was when I was driving. I forgot how old I was. You ever done that?
Yeah, all the time, man. It gets worse as you age. I did it on our stream like 4 days ago.
I couldn't remember if I was 23 or 24.
Yeah, that you're going to do that forever now.
I was like,
it'll get worse and worse because you won't naturally do the math as fast as you used to be able to.
Well, I was like, man, okay, was last year... I was like thinking about what I did and like thinking of like the cake I had. What did it say, 24 or did it say 23?
Like, so there you go. You're still getting cakes.
Yeah, like from my parents, like when I go over there. But yeah, dude, I straight up just forgot, or not forgot. I knew it was 23 or 24, but yeah, weird when that happens for the first time. I don't think it's ever happened to me before.
Meanwhile, my wife just lays out "Happy Birthday, Josh" and pizza bites on a sheet pan.
That's unreal. Has that actually happened?
No, but I mean, It's also not out of the realm of possibility.
Laffy and Josh are the angry Pennsylvanian combo.
I've lived in North Carolina for almost 11 years now. I'm not Pennsylvanian any longer.
I'm not sure what Flex 305 JC's message means. So I have to, unfortunately, say no.
All the tongues out? What are you talking? The stuck out tongue emojis?
No. Jake still pulls around his little red wagon filled with dirty mags.
Oh, he just means you're young.
Oh, all right.
You're just a little kid walking around with porno mags.
Oh, yeah. I suppose that's one way to put it.
Yeah. I'm up to 31 crunched fantasy draft lineups, so Cantor, you'll always be Pennsylvanian to me. I won't be Pennsylvanian to everybody. Let's see. I was moved here in 2009, so I was 24. So I don't know, close to halfway there. Yeah.
So this happens to everyone, it looks like, based on what I'm seeing in YouTube chat. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for making me feel better. Thought I was going nuts for a minute.
I can't scrub that cuts down stank off. That's super true. What's wrong with PA?
Now people are getting some defensive. I don't know.
You people are just nicer everywhere else, basically.
Oh, is that true? I didn't even know that.
Oh, very, very true. So I got a buddy, big like Yankees fan, who's my college roommate. Talks with like a bit of a New York accent, and like one of the nicest people I know, but he speaks more aggressively because that's just like everything he's known. He lived in Philly for like 8 years. He lives in Boston now. But he was in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a mountain hippie town in North Carolina. And he felt like everybody was getting like frustrated and angry with him because they thought that he was like a complete asshole. But you just deal with people differently. And everybody's just so like laid back and not trying to make anything, move faster down here. And I think that he was like super off-putting. So if you've ever seen Idiocracy, I called him Not Sure, which is the lead character in the movie. They thought that he was like a dick because he talked properly and correct. Like, I don't know. You'd have to see the movie, but yeah. What do you think of it?
Yeah, it's different when you go on vacation somewhere and it's just a completely different way of treating people, even within the U.S. Obviously, a different country is one thing, but like it's just a different way of talking to people and like interacting, like on the street. New York really compared to me going to Chipotle in Minnesota.
Exactly. Did we get any ownership yet? No.
That's what I was waiting on for. I was trying to stall a little bit.
Likewise.
Just to see if we could. What's the ownership percentage for Robby Ray on DK? The last
32.
one. Yeah, the last one was 32. I think that goes up a little bit.
Really?
I think so. I'm hoping Pablo's comes up a little bit, so I'm not as aggressive on him. But if it goes down to like 15, I'm afraid I'm gonna have like 100% of Pablo, and that's not fun for anyone, especially not my DK account.
It's fun if you win.
Yeah,
it's fun if you're right. No,
there's no style points. You can still be right at 80%. Yeah. All right, what do we got here? Was that ownership? All right, let's see. Nope, no. That was Showdown Rankings. Well, there you go. If you're waiting on Showdown stuff,
it's out there.
It just got updated. I'm getting an absurd amount of 5-man stacks too. Like I'm seeing almost no 4-3s coming up in my top lineups.
I have more 5s than 4s.
So maybe they're just projecting better tonight. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly.
I'm not playing 150 tonight, actually.
Oh, you're not?
No, I got into like a bunch of the 20 max stuff. So I have 63 lineups tonight.
Nice.
But okay. 2 5-3s, 11 5-2s, 25 5 nakeds, and 25 4-3s.
Okay. Let's see. I just put in Tomas Nido for Ramos. And now I have a little bit less, like for ownership.
Oh, okay.
Just to have something there, so I don't have a 0% owned guy. Shaun Murphy. Who's Murphy in for? Who's in the expected lineup that he's? Oh, okay. So he was in for Fegley. Let me put in Shaun Murphy just so I have a placeholder. And I'm still getting to 84% Pablo. But here's the kicker. When I put those two in, 86.7% Brandon Nimmo. 86% of a hitter.
So much, man.
Doesn't seem optimal.
What's his salary? I have it here.
He's 4,400 leading off in Coors with an 8.3 implied total.
Yeah, I mean, I have 40% right now. That's kind of like the ceiling of what I can get to. But that's a lot. I've got 40 Nimmo, 46 Conforto, 43 Alonso, so it looks like we're dying together.
Jeez. I'm going to be, yeah. It's a good thing I'm not watching baseball tonight because I would probably try to flip on this Coors game. And if they had a 1-2-3 first, that might be the end of my phone that I just got a few months ago.
We're going to be getting an ownership update shortly. I just messaged Tom. He's running it now.
Awesome. So we should get that in the next couple minutes.
Yeah.
What do people in chat want to know? What do you guys want us to talk about?
So who do you like outside of the Mets and Rockies? Where's the rest of your exposure landing?
The next team that I'm getting a fair amount of exposure to would be the Milwaukee Brewers. I thought they would be higher owned.
Maybe they will be.
Maybe they will be. But Moustakas, I got to him in double digits. I got to Grisham in double digits. Same thing with Thames. Grandal, I think, is one of the better catcher plays on the slate. So I'm double the field on him right now. Feeling pretty good about my Brewers exposure. The teams that I'm way below the field on, it looks like, at least right now, Oakland. I'm sacrificing Minnesota, which I don't really love either one of those. I would like to get to some more Cubs, but when you get to a million stacks of one team, it's like you just get what you get. Like, it's not going to matter if I have 5 Oakland stacks. I'm not going to hit the nuts with one of those 5. The Mets go off and are the highest scoring team. There's a good chance I'm going to bink.
Yeah. As of right now, I had 21 Rockies stack, 5 Mans, 13 Mets, 3 Reds, and 1 Marlins. So yeah, Coors matters. Yeah, 1 Marlins.
Coors does matter. I've heard that in MLB DFS.
I don't know why I have 1 Marlins stack, but here we are.
Do you have your leverage rankings boosted?
No.
Okay. Well,
they're getting a little ownership on DraftKings, so. And I think that they're probably one of the few teams that actually, like, they've got their updated exposures in here too, so getting a little bit more like Lewis Brinson than I probably need. Can you talk about the sheer ownership on Coors tonight? I know the top stacks might back up the ownership, but I feel like when a team is simply that high owned, there is always merit to staying away. I don't think they're owned enough.
Yeah, I don't think they're owned enough either. So, I mean, I'll be playing a ton of Mets. Even if they are owned, it doesn't mean that you can't overcome that. So,
be different elsewhere. It's not. Look, like in the Rockies lineup right now, roster Charlie Blackmon in your stack and you're unique. Roster Ryan McMahon and you're unique. Yep. If you're trying to roster the Mets, roster JD Davis, roster Ahmed Rosario. These guys are 5, 6, 7% owned. Not a lot of people are going to have that combination. Instead of using Cole Hamels, use Tanner Roark. Or, instead of using, I don't want to say this, but like instead of using Pablo Lopez, take a risk on Glen Sparkman or something.
Yeah, there's always merit in that. Just taking the other guy for sheer ownership in MLB, but like it doesn't just mean you blanket say, okay, fade the Mets, because it's so hard to get duped even on a 7-game slate.
Yeah. Like, here's the deal: go look at Alex's lineups tomorrow morning in lineup study and see how much Mets he has. Yeah, if I'd be very surprised if it's not more than the field.
Like in high stakes stuff, he'll probably like fade the Mets or just won't have as much.
Yeah.
Because the ownership's going to be outrageous.
Ownership is in. Top stack should be following shortly. But yeah, in like whatever the $10 is or the equivalent on DK today, he'll be over the field on the Mets. I'd be shocked if he wasn't.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, he has to be, just based on these projections.
Yeah. It would surprise me. All right, we're in. Robby Ray, 35%. Chalk pitcher on DraftKings.
So he did go up a couple percent.
He did. Hamels dropped to 30.
Okay.
So the refresh is in, which means this is good to go.
I'm going to get to even more Hamels now. Where did Lopez get to?
Pablo?
Yeah.
20.
All right, so he went up a bit. Is he higher than Davies?
They're basically the same.
That's no fun.
Pablo is 20. Davies is 21.
Okay, so that's not going to change much for me.
Top stack tool should be updated as well. Mets. Oh my God, the Mets are way higher than their probability. Like, you smash the Mets, guys.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
Yeah, craziness. Absolute and utter craziness.
Do you think this has to do with that? Like, I guess I don't know all the workings of how ownership works, our ownership projections work. But like, is this just because I don't know why it would be like that? I've never seen a number that high. Like why they're so under-owned.
Probably just like the limits of crunches, basically. Not from our ownership, but just like there comes a tipping point where people just go the opposite direction in the aggregate.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. It's just
that'd be my guess.
Absurd how under-owned they're going to be for a team that's chalk.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
83% Brandon Nimmo. How's that sound? 81% Paolo, 78% Alonso, 68% Conforto, 68% Rosario, 66% Cano, 52% McNeil, a little low on him. Tomas Nido, 46%. JD Davis, my lowest owned Met, besides Stevie Matz, 25%.
I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there with you. Don't want to get to the White Sox, Reds. Brewers are a little under-owned. That's exciting. Padres, not really. Can I bump up the Brewers to get a little bit more? Not really. All right. I'm going with whatever I've got right now. 39.7% in the aggregate on the Mets.
Unreal.
Yeah. Nobody under 25%. 35% Barrios, 16% Ray, 30% Roark, 13% Hamels, 38 Davies, 54 Pablo Lopez. Jake, see you at the top.
I suppose. Man, I'm going to try to mess around with Lopez's ownership. I'm going to put him at like 25 and see what happens.
Go for it.
Let's see if that changes anything. No, not really. 78%. There we go. It's not even worth it to mess with it because I'm not going to change it from like 20 to 40 because that's a completely different slate then. So
also, perfect time for everybody to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got 13 minutes to go before we sign off, but we'll be making way to Emac and Nolan shortly.
Did you get the urge to play Showdown?
I certainly did not.
Okay. Well, you were
34 of 80 into that contest right now on Fantasydraft.
34?
Yeah.
We got 20 plus minutes left, a little over 20 minutes left.
When we sign off, if it's still close, I'm going to enter 3 lineups.
Yeah, you gotta. It's already rate free.
I'm with you. Who is your highest owned hitter?
Oh, Nimmo.
It is just Nimmo?
Yeah, Nimmo's my highest owned player.
Who is mine?
My highest owned non-Coors bat, though, is my home run pick. It's Matt Chapman.
My highest owned hitter is Pete Alonso at 58.7%. Conforto, Thomas Nido, Brandon Nimmo, Ahmed Rosario, Robinson Cano, Jeff McNeil.
I mean, it sounds like money to me.
Your dong pick is the first non-Coors guy I have as well.
Well, there you go. It's like we use the same tools. Sometimes.
I know, for real. How much JD Davis do you have? That one's one I got like 5 times the field on. Nope, not 5.
23% now.
I have 25.
You want to just send me a CSV? Like we can just split this if you want.
I think we already have it. Although our pitching is going to be different, right? How much Hamels do you have?
34.
Okay, so I have 13. So Hamels will tell a night if the Mets go crazy, how Hamels does in relationship. So Barrios and Roark are the guys I have over 30. Ray and Hamels I have 12 and 15. You have that like flip-flopped, right?
Ray and Hamels?
Ray and Hamels are your 2 bigger guys, right?
Yeah, but Ray keeps dropping.
Okay.
For me.
I have over 30 of Roark and Barrios each.
Ooh, I don't have that at all.
So pitching will dictate which one of us has a better day.
Yeah, that's always fun. I have 2% Roark.
I have 30.
2% Barrios.
Really?
Yeah.
So the 2 guys that I have most at the top, my 2 30% guys, you have 2.
yeah, that's gonna be an issue.
If we put this up as a Twitter poll, who's smarter about this pitcher play? Do you think you win 100% to 0, or do like 5 people say Josh?
I think you might win.
You would win that going away.
Why?
Because I'm me.
So
people will vote against me by default. It doesn't matter what the poll question is.
Do you have a persecution complex? Why would they vote against you?
Do you doubt that that's true?
No, I don't know. We've never done polls against each other.
Yeah, you would come out of that 80% to the good, I think.
Wow. I think you think too highly of me.
No, I think very low of myself. I do think highly of you. I don't want it to come off that I don't, but I'm very much anti-Josh in this scenario.
Come on.
I'm telling you. Why do I have so many stupid 15 one-off Marlins?
15?
Yeah.
So I don't have like any Marlins. That's like my play tonight is just ultra aggressive. But it's usually not like, but I still wouldn't get to Marlins. So that's something that's probably, or like the lower teams that just people are completely going to avoid, like maybe KC. Like I think it would make sense to have a KC stack in there or a White Sox stack against Barrios. But like I didn't get to any of those teams at all.
I have 29 5-man Mets stacks, 8 Rockies, 5 A's, and 2 Cubs. That's the total of my 5-mans.
Man, I didn't even get to Rockies that much. I got to Story and Arenado, and that's it. I know they're against a lefty in Coors, but I still do like them, you know?
I had to walk them back. I mean, I was going to get twice the field, but the top stack tool put me off of them a little bit. So now I'm just basically neutral. Highest exposed Rockies. I'm neutral on Story, neutral on Murphy, slightly under on Arenado. The only guy that I'm really over on is noted 8-hole hitter Drew Butera. Yeah.
Man.
So that's always fun.
Any teams you're missing out
on? Everybody but the Mets, Twins, Rockies, and A's, I guess.
For me, it's if I had to choose a couple teams, like I think the Rockies are a great stack, but I'm not that mad about missing out on them because I think they are a little bit overowned, or at least they're fairly owned. I would really love to get to like 5 to 7 twin stacks, like full 5-man twin stacks.
Yeah.
But I haven't quite honed in on my rankings quite enough for me to be able to do that. They're not under-owned enough. Similar with Oakland. But yeah, can't have FOMO in MLB DFS. Nope. That's how you lose money.
We are up to 46 of 80.
46 on that contest?
Yes.
So what's the cutoff for you?
For me to enter it?
Yeah.
If it looks like it's going to overlay with 5 minutes to spare.
Okay. Brick's in there, so don't be showing your lineup. You know, you don't want Brick to steal it.
He doesn't want any of this smoke.
I think he might.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I don't blame him either.
So I think next year I'm going to have less, like I'm going to crunch out less lineups. Because I think, like I love my exposures on Fantasydraft. So these are my, on Fantasydraft, which you guys should all be playing on. If you're not, you don't like money. Mets. So I have 30 lineups.
Yeah.
Mets, 20%, 6 lineups. Cubs, 17%, 5 lineups. Rockies, 17%, 5 lineups. Oakland, 5 lineups. Milwaukee, 3. Twins, 3. Arizona, 2. Washington, 1.
Okay.
I feel so much better about that, like just spreading around my play. And I still have guys, like I'm really heavy on Ray. He's at 80%. Heavy on Lopez at 57. Heavy on Hamels at 43. And then I have a bunch of hitters around and above 30%. So it's not like I'm not making stands on people, but I think I'm playing a little bit too aggressive on DK tonight.
You know, you can just change it, right?
Oh, I can, but
you don't have to.
I like the idea of the ranking system, but I surely have not mastered what I'm trying to get in 150 lineups. Or maybe I'm using too many. Like I need to get a wider spread with less lineups so that it doesn't just automatically take the top 50 lineups being Met stacks because they grade out better than everyone else.
That team stack caps.
I do.
Yeah.
And it's still
because I lower.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I need to do, I think, and just crunch out every team.
But not even necessarily that. I mean, you can be fine not getting to the Marlins and the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks and like the other ass at the bottom. But yeah, so like there's 14 teams today. What did you set? Do you set consistent across the board?
I didn't today, but I usually, so if it was like a 7-game slate like today, I'd probably set it at like 10%. Stack caps at 10%.
Yeah, that's
for the
fine.
main stacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would crunch out 1,000 lineups. So that I think that it's giving me.
And you still don't think that you're getting enough of the teams that you want?
Not that the teams that I want, but just like there's like ends up being like 1 or 2 teams that I'm super heavy on.
Yeah.
Because when it has 1,000 lineups to choose from, it can choose up to 10% of that would be what, 100 lineups.
Yes.
So if that team grades out so much better than every other team,
it's going to be in 100 of 150.
Yeah, it's just going to pull those 100 5-man stacks of the Mets, for example, tonight. Whereas I wouldn't necessarily want that. I'd want some of those Mets stacks, but a lot of them are probably too chalky. Or
that's where you need an additional step. So I add a percentage boost column so that I can increase or decrease projections for each team after the crunch. So
I do that with the top stack tool. But yeah, that's exactly what I need to do, I think.
Basically, like instead of, let's say that you've got everybody set for 100% right now. What you would want to do, I mean, this is a bad example because we both won a lot of the Mets, but you would just set the Mets to 90 instead of 100. Instead of having 35% of them, it would drop to 30 and it would bump up the rest of your lineups.
Yeah. That's what I should do. And then just, do something in Excel, like if I have the positions listed like we have on the projections, and it's like if pitcher, then, same, then 100%. And then if not, this number is the multiplier for each team. That's what I should do.
Well, something to do for next season because not going to happen this year. You ready to close this out and give way to Nolan and EMAC?
I think so.
Okay. Do me a favor, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to grab the link right now to Live Before Lock, EMAC, and Nolan edition, dropping that into chat right now. Check that out. They are going to be live immediately after Jake and I sign off. Final summary. Top pitchers, top stacks.
Mets, Pablo Lopez. Those are 2 people I'm making extreme stances on. Playing a ton of Robby Ray on Fantasydraft. My favorite pairing on Draftkings is Lopez Hamels with just as many Mets as you can fit. And secondary stack, if I had to choose one, would be Milwaukee for me.
Alrighty. Mets, Rockies, A's, my top 3 most exposed stacks. Barrios and Roark, the guys that broke free for me at the top. Zack Davies and Pablo Lopez, very aggressive, including 54% Pablo Lopez. And that is it. We'll give way to the boys for Browns, Jets. Check out at Awesemo_com, the Twitter handle. We've got a giveaway going on right now for Odell Beckham Jr.'s receiving yards. And shout out to Fantasy Draft. Go to fantasydraft.com, use the promo code Awesemo, and get $1,000 in rake-free entries in your first 7 days. Got to be 18 years of age or older. Best of luck, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We will talk to you again tomorrow.